The night was cold, and the city was alive with noise and lights. Tall towers touched the sky, but at the bottom, on the dirty streets, life was different. A young alien girl sat near a broken sign that flashed weak neon light. Her skin carried strange colors, her clothes were torn, and her stomach growled with hunger. People walked past her without looking. To them, she was invisible, just another homeless creature in a city that never cared. Her small hands held an old blanket, but it gave no real warmth. She watched the crowd, her eyes sharp and quick. She was always looking for scraps of food, something dropped, something forgotten. Most days she found nothing. Most nights she slept hungry. Tonight felt the same, until she saw it. Something shiny fell from the pocket of a man stepping out of a large black car. He was dressed in fine clothes, his face important, his voice strong as he gave orders to guards standing near him. He did not notice what he had dropped. It hit the ground softly and slid close to where the girl was sitting. She froze. Her eyes locked on it. It was a wallet, thick, heavy, and polished. The guards walked with the man, protecting him as he entered a tall building with golden doors. None of them saw the wallet on the ground. The girl looked left, then right. No one was watching. Her thin fingers stretched out, shaking, and she pulled the wallet into her hands. It was heavier than she expected. She opened it slowly, her breath catching in her chest. Inside were credit chips, more than she had ever seen in her life. Enough to buy food for years. There was also a card with the man's face. She read the words slowly. Ambassador of the United Human Alliance. Her heart jumped. A diplomat. A leader. A man with power across the stars. She turned the wallet in her hands again. Hidden behind the chips and cards, she found a folded note with strange markings. Codes that made no sense to her. For a moment, the world around her disappeared. The sounds of the city faded. All she saw was the wallet. All she felt was the choice. She could keep it. She could run far away and never sleep hungry again. But something inside her stopped her. She whispered to herself, "Not mine." Her thoughts raced. If she returned it, maybe the man would reward her. Maybe she would get food, maybe a safe place to sleep. Or maybe they would call her a thief and punish her. Fear twisted in her chest. She had seen other street children beaten or taken away by guards for less. She looked at the golden building where the man had gone. Bright lights shone from the windows. Guards stood tall, weapons ready, eyes scanning the streets. She shivered. If she walked toward them, would they even let her close? Or would they shoot her before she could speak? The girl hugged the wallet tight to her chest. Her heart pounded like a drum. She could almost feel the danger hidden inside this object. Why did it seem heavier than gold? Why did it feel as if it carried not just money, but secrets too big for her world? A sudden gust of wind rushed through the street. Trash swirled in the air, and the neon sign above her flickered, dying out. In that moment, she made her choice. She stood, weak legs trembling, and stepped out of the shadows. The wallet was still in her hands, pressed against her heart. She walked slowly toward the embassy gates, where the guards stood with glowing weapons. One guard noticed her. His eyes narrowed. He raised his weapon slightly. "Stop. Stay where you are." His voice was sharp, dangerous. People on the street turned to watch. The alien girl froze, her throat dry, but then she lifted the wallet high above her head. "I found this," she cried, her voice breaking. "It belongs to him." The guards looked at each other in surprise. The street fell quiet, all eyes on the small, trembling figure holding a wallet that could change the fate of worlds. The guards whispered into their comms, their faces tense. Finally, one of them stepped forward. He grabbed the wallet from her hands, his eyes scanning the ambassador's ID. He looked at her again. His voice dropped low. The ambassador will want to see this. And you. The gates opened with a deep hum, light spilling out into the night. The girl swallowed hard as two guards came to her side. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The gates closed behind her, cutting her off from the outside world, and as she walked deeper into the grand embassy halls, her mind raced with questions. Would they thank her? Would they punish her? Or would something far greater begin because of what she had just done? The answer waited inside. The heavy gates closed behind the alien girl with a loud echo. She flinched at the sound, as if the city itself had swallowed her whole. The streets, the noise, the cold all were gone. Now there was only silence and the sharp steps of the guards walking beside her. Their armor glowed faintly under the embassy lights, their weapons ready. The girl kept her head down, clutching the old blanket around her shoulders. Every step made her heart beat faster. She had never been inside a place like this. Marble floors shone like mirrors. Golden lights burned bright on the walls, and large flags hung high above her head. She felt smaller with each step, as if the grand building itself was watching her. The guards said nothing. One of them glanced at her now and then, his eyes cold and sharp. To him, she was not a child. She was a problem, maybe even a threat. Finally, they stopped in a vast hall. The doors at the end were tall, carved with symbols of planets and stars. Two more guards stood at attention beside them. One spoke softly into his come, and then the giant doors began to open. The alien girl took a step back, fear twisting inside her. She wanted to run, but the guard's hands were already on her shoulders, guiding her forward. The light from the hall spilled onto her face, so bright she had to squint inside. The air smelled of polished wood and strange perfumes. A long table stretched across the room, filled with men and women in fine suits, their faces proud and serious. At the center of it all sat the man whose wallet she had found, the ambassador. He was taller than she had remembered, his suit sharp, his silver hair shining under the lights. His eyes, cold and intelligent, locked onto her. He raised a hand, and the room fell silent. The girl froze under his gaze. Her hands shook at her sides. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. One of the aides at the table leaned toward the ambassador. "Sir," she came to the gates, claiming she found your wallet. A street beggar. Most likely, a liar. The ambassador lifted the wallet in his hand. He had it now, taken from the guards. He opened it carefully, checking inside. His fingers touched the credit chips, the cards, the folded note with its strange codes. Nothing was missing. Slowly, he closed it again and looked at the girl. "You," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "Do you know who I am?" The girl shook her head. Her voice finally came, small and trembling. "Your name was on the card. Ambassador, that is all I know." Murmurs rippled through the aides. One of them, a man with a thin face, stood quickly. "Sir, this is dangerous." She could have looked inside. She could have copied the codes. "We must arrest her." The girl's chest tightened. She stepped back, her eyes darting to the guards. Arrest? Punish? Was this the end of her choice? But the ambassador raised his hand again. The thin-faced aide fell silent. The hall grew still once more. The ambassador leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Tell me," he said softly, almost like a challenge. "Why return it? You could have sold this wallet for more than you will ever see in your life. Why bring it here instead of running?" The girl's lips trembled. She searched for the right words. The truth was simple, but it felt so heavy to speak. Finally, she whispered, "It was not mine." The room went silent. No one moved. The aides looked at each other in disbelief. The guards frowned. The ambassador stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then one of the women at the table slammed her hand down. Lies. She is a thief. A beggar. She only says this because she was caught. The girl flinched, her body shaking. She wanted to speak again, to explain, but fear kept her silent. The ambassador, however, did not take his eyes off her. He studied her face, her torn clothes, her trembling hands. Something flickered in his eyes, something the others did not see. Finally, he spoke. Leave her. I want to hear more. Gasps filled the hall. The aides erupted in protest. Sir, this is madness. She is a spy. Think of the danger. But the ambassador silenced them with one sharp look. His voice cut through the noise, firm and cold. I said, leave her. The aides exchanged worried glances, but said no more. One by one, they fell silent, their anger bottled, their suspicion burning in their eyes. The guards stepped back, but did not lower their weapons. The girl stood alone now. All eyes on her, her heart beating fast. She did not know if she had just been saved or if she had just stepped into even greater danger. Then the ambassador leaned back in his chair, tapping the wallet lightly against the table. His gaze did not soften. If anything, it grew sharper, more curious. Now, he said slowly, tell me everything. How did you find this wallet? Who else saw it, and why? Why do I believe there is more to you than just a hungry child on the street? The girl swallowed hard. She could feel the weight of his words pressing down on her. She had returned the wallet hoping for safety, but instead, she found herself standing in the center of power, under the gaze of a man whose choices could change worlds. She opened her mouth to speak. But before her words could form, a distant rumble shook the embassy walls. A faint explosion echoed from outside, followed by the sound of alarms blaring across the building. The aides jumped from their chairs. The guards raised their weapons, eyes darting toward the doors. The ambassador did not move. His sharp eyes stayed on the girl as if the explosion outside mattered less than the trembling figure standing before him. And in that moment, she realized the dangerous choice was not finished. It had only just begun. The embassy shook again as the alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across the golden walls, painting the room in warning colors. Guards rushed to their positions, weapons raised. The aides shouted over one another, their voices sharp with fear. Yet in the middle of the chaos, the ambassador sat, calm and still. His cold eyes locked on the trembling alien girl. She stood, frozen, her hands gripping the edge of her blanket, her wide eyes darting between the guards and the tall man who studied her. She expected him to order her out, to have her dragged away as the explosion outside grew louder. But he did not. Instead, he leaned forward, his sharp voice cutting through the noise. Stay quiet. Do not move, he told her. The girl swallowed hard. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt nailed to the shining floor. An aide rushed to the ambassador's side. Sir, we must move you to the safe chamber. It isn't secure here. The ambassador raised his hand, silencing him. Not yet. His voice was calm, almost cold. He turned back to the girl. Your name. Tell me your name. The girl opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her throat was dry, her fear heavy. After a moment, she whispered, I have no name. The aides exchanged shocked looks. No name. One of them spat. She's nothing but a street rat. But the ambassador's expression did not change. He tapped the wallet against the table softly, his eyes never leaving hers. Then tell me what you are. Her voice was weak, almost broken. Hungry, cold, alone. The room went silent for a moment. Even the alarms seemed far away. Her words, simple and honest, struck like knives. The ambassador studied her face. the dirt on her skin, the torn edges of her clothing. And something flickered in his eyes, something the aides could not read. Finally, he asked, "Why didn't you keep it?" He lifted the wallet slightly. "You could have sold this and lived like a queen on the streets. Why risk coming here?" The girl lowered her eyes, staring at the floor. Her voice came soft, but clear. "It was not mine. I cannot take what is not mine." The aides erupted in anger again. "She lies. A trick. No street rat speaks of honor." Their voices rose like fire, demanding her punishment. But once again, the ambassador silenced them with a sharp wave of his hand. "Enough." His eyes narrowed as he leaned closer to the girl. "Do you know what was in this wallet?" She shook her head quickly. No. The ambassador's fingers touched the folded note inside. His jaw tightened. These codes, if they had fallen into the wrong hands, they could start a war. The girl's chest tightened. She did not understand the codes, but the weight of his words made her tremble even more. A war. Entire worlds burning, fleets destroyed. Because of this wallet. Because of her choice, one of the aides stepped forward, his voice harsh. "Sir, you cannot trust her. She must have looked inside. She may have even shown it to someone. We cannot take this risk." The girl gasped and shook her head. No, I did not show it to anyone. I swear." The guards shifted, their weapons gleaming, ready to move at a single command. For a heartbeat, she thought they would seize her, but the ambassador raised his hand once more. His voice was cold but steady. "No, she did not lie. I see it in her eyes." The aides stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, I said leave her." He cut them off, his voice sharp as a blade. The room fell silent again. The girl stood shaking, her heart hammering so loud she could barely hear anything else. She could not understand. Why was this powerful man defending her? Why was he protecting her from his own people? The ambassador leaned back in his chair. His face was unreadable, but his voice carried weight. "You have saved more lives than you can imagine." And yet, he paused, studying her trembling figure. "I cannot decide if you are a gift or a danger." Her lips parted, but she had no answer. Then the ground shook again, harder this time. The windows rattled and dust fell from the golden ceiling. The guards stiffened and the aides screamed. Outside, the sound of blaster fire cracked the night. The ambassador's sharp eyes flicked toward the doors. His voice dropped low, heavy with warning. "They are here." The girl's heart froze. "Who?" she whispered. He looked back at her, his gaze like ice. "The ones who wanted the wallet. The ones who would burn worlds for what you found." The girl's knees weakened. She could barely breathe. She thought she had only picked up a wallet. Now she realized she had picked up the future of the galaxy. The doors shook as guards outside fired their weapons. The embassy echoed with shouts and explosions. The ambassador stood slowly, his presence commanding. He turned to the girl and said words that sent a chill through her bones. "Stay close to me. From this moment on, your life will never be the same." And as the doors trembled under the force of the attackers, the alien girl understood that her first meeting with the ambassador was not the end of her danger. It was only the beginning. The embassy doors shuddered as blaster fire thundered outside. Guards shouted orders, their voices sharp, their movements quick. Red alarms flashed across the grand hall, painting every wall in warning colors. The alien girl pressed herself against the side of the table, her small body trembling. She had never been near a battle before, and the sounds made her chest tighten with fear. The ambassador stood tall, his calm face almost frightening in the chaos. He held the wallet in his hand, his thumb pressing against the folded note hidden inside. His eyes stayed sharp, watching both the girl and the storm outside. The aides were in panic. One man shouted, "We must leave." "Sir, they are coming for you." Another cried, "The girl brought them here. She is the reason they found us." The girl gasped, shaking her head quickly. "No, I didn't. I swear." Her voice broke as tears gathered in her eyes. But no one listened. Suspicion filled the room like smoke. The ambassador, however, did not shout. Instead, he opened the wallet again, pulling out the folded note. The paper seemed ordinary, but when he spread it on the table, faint symbols glowed softly. Strange codes shimmered across the surface, alive with hidden meaning. The girl stared at it, confused. To her, it was nothing but lines and patterns. But to the aides, their faces paled. One whispered, "Those are access codes. Fleet positions, defense routes, hidden supply lines." If stolen, another aide finished with trembling lips, it would be the end. Entire systems could fall in days. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. And yet, this child. He gestured at the girl, chose to return it. The aides argued again. Or she is part of it. A trap. She was sent to trick us. Their voices clashed like knives. The girl hugged her blanket tight, her voice shaking. "I don't understand. I don't know what those symbols mean. I only wanted to return what was not mine." For a moment, silence cut through the chaos. The ambassador's eyes stayed fixed on her, searching for lies. But what he found was only fear, hunger, and something rarer, honesty. He turned to his aides, his voice strong. "She did not betray us. She saved us. If those codes had been lost, the war would already be burning." The aides stared in disbelief, some still frowning, but none dared to argue further. The ambassador's word was law. Outside, another explosion rocked the embassy, closer this time. The chandeliers above rattled, dust falling like snow. The girl flinched, covering her ears. She could hear voices in the distance, mercenaries shouting orders. The attackers were inside the grounds now. The ambassador folded the note carefully and slipped it back into the wallet. Then he looked at the girl. His expression was unreadable, but his words were heavy with meaning. "Do you know what this means, child? The moment you touched this wallet, you became part of something larger than yourself. These men outside, they do not want me. They want what you carried." Her knees weakened. Her lips trembled. "Me?" He nodded once. "You." The truth hit her like a blade. She thought she had found money, a chance for food, maybe a warm bed. Instead, she had carried the weight of war in her hands. And now, men with guns would kill anyone to reach her. The doors rattled again as guards pushed furniture to block them. The sound of boots running in the halls echoed closer. The ambassador's aides huddled together. Fear painted on their faces. "Sir, we cannot hold them much longer." The ambassador's hand rested on the table, firm and steady. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut steel. "Then we prepare." He turned back to the girl, lowering his tone so only she could hear. "Listen to me. From this moment, they will hunt you. They will chase you across stars if they must. But you are under my protection now. Do you understand?" The girl blinked up at him, confused and scared. "Why? Why protect me? I am nothing." For the first time, something almost like a smile touched his lips. It was faint, gone in a heartbeat, but it softened his cold face. Because even the smallest hand can change the fate of a galaxy. Before she could answer, the wall near the door cracked under the blast of heavy weapons. Flames licked the edges of the marble. Guards opened fire, filling the air with thunder. The aides screamed and ducked for cover. The girl clung to the table, her heart racing, her body shaking. She wanted to run, but the ambassador's calm figure in the storm anchored her. Through the smoke, shadows appeared, mercenaries in dark armor, their helmets glowing red. Their leader stepped forward, his voice booming. "Hand over the girl, now." The room froze. Everyone stared at the ambassador. The choice was his, but instead of fear, he laughed softly, a cold, dangerous sound. He placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, pulling her closer. His words rang out like steel. "You want her? Then you will have to go through me." The mercenaries raised their weapons. The battle had begun, and in that moment, the alien girl realized the wallet had not just carried secrets. It had carried her into a storm that would decide the future of the galaxy. Smoke filled the grand hall. The air tasted of fire and metal. Guards exchanged fire with mercenaries at the shattered doors, their weapons flashing in bursts of light. The aides screamed and hid behind the long table, some clutching papers, others praying under their breath. The alien girl crouched low, her small hands over her ears, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break her chest. The ambassador stood in the center of the chaos, calm as stone. His hand rested firmly on the girl's shoulder, keeping her close. His cold eyes never left the mercenaries, who advanced step by step, their leader pointing straight at her. "Hand her over," the leader barked. His voice was muffled through his mask, but the threat was clear. "She has what we want. Do this, and maybe we will let the rest of you live." The girl trembled, her lips shaking. She whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "They want me." Because of the wallet, the ambassador's hand tightened on her shoulder. He spoke loud enough for all to hear. "No, they want power. And you. You hold the key they cannot have." The mercenary leader raised his weapon. "Then you both die." Before he could fire, the ambassador snapped his fingers. Guards unleashed a rain of blaster fire, forcing the mercenaries back. Explosions echoed through the hall as marble shattered and smoke spread thick. Yet even in battle, the ambassador's focus remained on the girl. When the shooting paused for breath, he knelt beside her. His sharp eyes met hers, his voice quiet but strong. "You saved me once already. You returned what could have doomed us all. Now I must ask, will you trust me?" She stared at him, confused. "Trust you? Why?" "Because I am about to make you an offer," he said, his face unreadable. "One that could save your life or end it." Her chest tightened. "What? What offer?" The ambassador rose to his full height, his voice carrying across the hall. "I claim this child under my protection." Gasps filled the room. The aides shouted in disbelief. "What? Impossible. She's no one." But the ambassador's voice only grew stronger. "From this moment, she is no longer a beggar in the streets. She is a ward of the United Human Alliance. Under my care, any hand raised against her is raised against me." The girl's eyes widened. She could not breathe. Did she hear him right? Protection? Care. She had never known such words. The aides erupted like fire. "Sir, this is madness. She is dangerous. She's a child of the streets. She could be working with them. You cannot tie the honor of the Alliance to some alien rat." But the ambassador's voice cut through their protests like a blade. "Silence. This is my decision." The mercenary leader laughed, a harsh sound. "Do you think a title will protect her? You cannot hide her forever. We will take her. We will burn your embassy to the ground." The ambassador's sharp eyes glimmered, and his lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then you will learn what it means to threaten me." The girl clutched her blanket, trembling. She whispered, "Why? Why do this for me?" He bent down again, his voice dropping so only she could hear. "Because once, long ago, someone did the same for me." His hand pressed against hers, steady, firm, and I have never forgotten. Her throat tightened, her heart caught between fear and hope. No one had ever chosen her before. No one had ever seen her as anything but a burden. Yet this man, this powerful human, had spoken words that made her world turn upside down. The embassy shook. Again, as another explosion ripped through the outer wall. More mercenaries stormed in, their weapons glowing. Guards fought back, but they were outnumbered. The aides screamed louder. "We must escape. Sir, we cannot hold them." The ambassador looked at the girl, his voice calm despite the storm. "You asked for food. You asked for a place to sleep. I offer you more than that. I offer you safety. I offer you a new life. But if you take it, you must stand with me, even when danger comes, even when the galaxy turns against us." The girl's lips trembled. She thought of nights hungry, of days cold and invisible, of people walking past her without care. She thought of the moment she picked up the wallet, thinking it was only a chance for bread. And now? Her voice broke into a whisper. I will trust you." The ambassador nodded once, sharp and certain. He turned back to the mercenaries, his voice like thunder. "Then, hear me now. She is mine to protect, and no one touches her." The mercenaries raised their weapons. The guards braced themselves for another wave. Smoke and fire filled the hall, and as the girl stood trembling at the ambassador's side, she realized her life had changed forever. She was no longer nameless, no longer forgotten. She had been chosen, but with that choice came a price, a dangerous offer that would bind her to the ambassador's fate, and to the storm of war already crashing down upon them. The embassy was no longer a place of peace. It had become a battlefield. Smoke curled through the grand hall, thick and choking. The golden banners that once hung proudly were torn and burning. The sharp crack of blaster fire echoed off the marble walls. Sparks rained from shattered lights above. The alien girl clung to the ambassador's side, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst. She had never seen such violence. Guards fell one by one, shouting as bolts of light struck their armor. Mercenaries in black helmets pushed forward through the smoke, their red visors glowing like fire. Hand over the girl. Their leader roared again. His voice shook the chamber. "Do this, and some of you may live." The aides cowered beneath the table, too terrified to speak. The guards held their ground, but it was clear they were outnumbered. Every second, the enemy drew closer. The ambassador stood tall, calm, even as chaos raged around him. He pulled the girl behind him, shielding her with his own body. His sharp eyes narrowed as he spoke, his voice like thunder. "If you want her, you will go through me." The mercenaries laughed, cruel and mocking. One stepped forward, raising his weapon. The shot rang out, flying straight toward the girl. But before it struck, the ambassador moved like lightning. He pulled her down, the blast hitting the wall above their heads, showering them with stone. He rose again, anger flashing in his cold eyes. "Fools," he spat. The guards returned fire, their blasters glowing, but the mercenaries pressed harder. The girl could feel the embassy walls trembling as explosions tore through them. She crouched low, covering her ears. But the sound still shook her bones. A mercenary broke through the line and charged toward her. His boots pounded the marble as he raised his weapon. The girl froze, terror locking her in place. She could not scream. She could not move. Then the ambassador stepped between them, his hand snapping up. A hidden blade glimmered in his grip. In one swift motion, he struck, and the mercenary fell at his feet. The girl gasped, her chest heaving. She had never seen death so close. The ambassador turned, his face calm but sharp. "Stay behind me. Do not move." She nodded weakly, clutching her blanket tight. The battle raged on. The aides shouted from their hiding places, their voices filled with panic. "We cannot hold them. We must surrender the girl." But the ambassador silenced them with a single glare. His voice was cold and final. "She is under my protection. I will not give her up." More mercenaries stormed in, their weapons blazing. The guards fell back, forming a shield around the ambassador and the girl. Blaster bolts lit up the hall, striking walls, tearing apart furniture. Filling the air with smoke and sparks, the mercenary leader stepped forward again, his mask glowing red in the firelight. His voice cut through the chaos. "Why sacrifice everything for her? She is nothing. A beggar. An alien child with no name. Do you truly believe she is worth this blood?" The girl trembled, her eyes wide with fear and shame. Was she worth it? She had never been worth anything before. No one had cared if she lived or died. And now men fought and bled around her because of a wallet she should never have touched. Her lips moved, a whisper escaping. "I'm not worth it." But the ambassador heard her. He turned sharply, his cold eyes softening for the first time. He knelt to her level, his voice low but fierce. "Do not say that. You returned what others would have stolen. You chose honor when you could have chosen survival. That makes you worth more than all of them." Before she could answer, the wall to their right exploded inward. Flames burst through the crack, throwing guards to the ground. Mercenaries poured in from every side. The girl screamed as one grabbed her by the arm, yanking her up. The ambassador spun, rage flashing across his face. "Let her go." The mercenary pressed a gun to her head, pulling her against his chest like a shield. The hall fell silent. Guards froze. Aides stopped breathing. Even the smoke seemed to pause. "Enough," the mercenary leader growled. "You will hand us the wallet. And the girl. Or she dies now." The girl's small body shook as the cold barrel pressed against her skin. Tears streamed down her face. She looked at the ambassador, her voice breaking. "Please, don't let them." The ambassador's eyes locked on hers, steady, unflinching. The air around him felt heavy, dangerous. He raised the wallet slowly, holding it in his hand. All eyes followed it. The mercenaries leaned forward, hungry. Their leader hissed, "Yes, give it to me." But the ambassador's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. His voice was calm, almost mocking. "You think this wallet is the prize? No, the true prize is her, and she is mine to protect." The mercenary pressed the gun harder to the girl's head. "Then watch her die." The hall tensed. Guards shifted nervously. Aides prayed in whispers. The girl squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the end, but the ambassador's voice cut through like fire. "If you harm her, you will not leave this hall alive." The two sides stood frozen. The girl trapped in the middle as the storm of war held its breath, and in that moment, she understood her fate, the ambassador's fate, and maybe even the fate of the galaxy itself hung on the edge of one choice. The hall was silent except for the crackle of flames and the faint hum of weapons ready to fire. Smoke drifted in heavy clouds, carrying the bitter scent of burning stone. The alien girl stood frozen in the mercenary's grip, the cold barrel of his gun pressed against her head. Her small body trembled as tears streaked down her dirt-covered face. The ambassador did not move. His tall figure stood firm, the wallet still in his hand, his sharp eyes locked on the man holding her hostage. Every guard, every aide, every mercenary waited for his choice. One wrong move, and the girl would die. The mercenary leader sneered. "Enough games. Hand over the wallet, and maybe we will let her live." The aides whispered frantically. "Sir, think carefully. We cannot risk this. She's only a child. She isn't worth the codes." The girl heard every word. Her heart broke. She had always known she was worthless to others, hungry, nameless, forgotten. But hearing it now, when her life balanced on a trigger, cut deeper than any blade. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Let me go. I'm not worth this." The ambassador's gaze shifted, his eyes softening just for a heartbeat. He spoke clearly, his voice carrying across the room. "Do not say that again. You are worth more than they could ever understand." The mercenary leader laughed harshly. "Beautiful words, Ambassador. But words don't stop bullets. Choose the codes, or her life." Everyone waited. The aides leaned forward, desperate. The guards' hands shook on their weapons. The mercenaries pressed closer, their visors glowing red in the smoke. Then the ambassador did something no one expected. Slowly, he lowered the wallet. His voice was calm, but filled with a dangerous edge. "You want her? You want this child? Then hear me well." He stepped forward, his shadow falling across the floor like a blade. "She is no longer a beggar. She is under my protection. She is my ward. And if you harm her, you declare war not just on me, but on the entire United Human Alliance." Gasps filled the hall. The aides stared in disbelief. The guards tightened their grips. Even the mercenaries hesitated. The leader's voice cracked with surprise. You claim her?" The ambassador's voice thundered. "Yes, she carries my seal now. Touch her and you face every fleet, every army, every world under my command." The girl's breath caught. She had never been anyone. She had never belonged anywhere. And now, in front of enemies and allies alike, this powerful man had claimed her as his own. The mercenary leader's grip faltered for just a second. That was all it took. The ambassador moved like lightning. With one sharp motion, he threw the wallet high into the air. The mercenary's eyes instinctively followed it. In that split second, the ambassador lunged forward, his hidden blade flashing. The girl felt the grip on her arm vanish as the mercenary stumbled back, clutching his wound. Guards fired at once, their blasters cutting down the mercenaries still standing. The hall roared with sound shouts, fire, explosions. The girl fell to the floor, her hands shaking. She looked up to see the ambassador standing above her, his coat torn, his blade dripping, his cold eyes burning with fury. He reached down, pulling her to her feet. His voice was steady. "You are safe now. As long as I live, no one will harm you." The remaining mercenaries fled, dragging their wounded leader. The sound of retreat echoed through the broken embassy. Guards cheered weakly, exhausted but alive. The aides, pale and trembling, gathered around the ambassador. One spoke in disbelief. "Sir, you risked everything. For her?" The ambassador's gaze turned to them, sharp as fire. "Everything I risked was worth less than her honor. She returned what others would have stolen. She chose truth when no one was watching. Tell me, is that not more loyalty than you have ever shown me?" The aides fell silent, ashamed. The girl clutched his arm, her voice weak. "Why? Why protect me? I am no one." The ambassador finally allowed the faintest smile to touch his lips. "No one." He shook his head. "No. From this day forward, you are under my name. You are someone, and the galaxy will know it." She stared at him, her tears falling freely now. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, chosen, not as a burden, not as a beggar, but as someone who mattered. Outside, the sounds of war still echoed in the city. But inside the broken embassy, a new bond had been forged. A powerful man had taken a forgotten child and placed her under his shield, changing both of their fates forever. The news spread quickly across the stars. Whispers turned into stories, stories into headlines. Ambassador protects homeless alien girl, declares her his ward. And in every corner of the galaxy, leaders and enemies alike asked the same question. Why? The ambassador himself answered only once, his words carrying across systems like thunder, because once, long ago, someone saved me the same way. And now it is my turn. The girl stood at his side, no longer nameless, no longer forgotten. She had stepped from the shadows into history, and the galaxy would never be the same.